What's up, everyone's Coach Tony here with the Unfair Advantage. And today I have an amazing special guest. You all asked for NYU, and we get NYU. So I'm going to have my special guest introduce herself, and we can get started.
Yeah, hey everyone. So my name is Senaida. I'm currently a freshman at NYU studying at the Clive Institute of Recorded Music, which is in the Tisch School of the Arts, and I'm also minoring in philosophy.
Super, super cool. I think this is the first time I ever heard of that program as well, too. So I'm super excited for this chat. But I think the overall question of the day is, can you share about your high school journey? So like starting from 9th grade all up to senior year of kind of what that looked like for you academically, what activities did you do, and kind of basically in your mindset about like how you approached each year and everything with that. If you can share about that.
Of course. So I always knew that I wanted to go into music ever since I was like really, really young. But like, honestly, I always tell people like, if you don't know what you want to do yet, like that's totally okay. I have a lot of friends who like didn't really know what they wanted to do until like junior year. And even especially if you're coming to NYU, we have like liberal studies program and like the Gallatin program where you like don't really need to decide a major and you don't need to like just pick one thing to do. So I think that's why like NYU is super great. But yeah, going back to my high school journey. So in 9th grade, I knew I wanted to go into music, and I just started to like sort of just focus on like my grades and my extracurriculars. I wasn't really thinking about college back then, obviously, like, but I was trying to get like the best grades I could. I will say that by the end of senior year, my GPA was not the highest. It wasn't even like close to the highest in my grade. So it like really doesn't matter. But I did take courses that I enjoyed, which is really, really important, I think, because you learn so much more when you take the courses that you actually are interested in rather than like, oh, I have to take this because like XYZ, you know, like colleges don't look at like certain courses. I mean, it depends on your major, but like if you feel like you really want to take something, then just take it. And don't try to force yourself to like only do like science and math courses and then you like hate it. So yeah. And the other thing is, so going into grade 9 and 10, that was like sort of my mindset, picking courses that I liked. Since I was going into music and I knew I was going into music, I did drop my math and sciences after 10th grade, which was an interesting decision, but it was because I was very, very sure of what I was going into. And so in grade 11 and 12, I took a lot of like arts courses. I took a lot of humanities, and I really, really enjoyed those. And on the side, for my extracurriculars, I did a pre-college program at the Royal Conservatory of Music. So I'm from Toronto, and we had this pre-college program for musicians. And so I trained as a classical musician. I also did band inside and outside of school. I did choir all 4 years of high school. And I also played in like other jazz bands, and like I just tried to do everything that involved music. I would try to get every opportunity that I could. And I also just did some other fun clubs. I did like Model UN, I did debate. Yeah, so it was more like trying to enjoy my high school years. And then towards like junior year, I started making a list of schools, and I also visited schools. I think it was the summer before senior year. I did a lot of visiting, and no, actually, it would be the summer before my junior year. And also during sophomore year, I did come to New York. Even though NYU wasn't my top choice at the time, I took a tour. I took a tour of Columbia, and then I went to Boston, and I also toured Berkeley. So yeah, like looking at schools and like sort of planning ahead is a really good way to prepare. And also like visiting the schools, or even because of COVID right now, doing like virtual visits, asking friends who have gone to those places, or just like going on the school website is super, super helpful. Also like YouTube videos, because I do YouTube videos as well for like college students, and I talk about my experiences. So like there's so many different resources where you can find people talking about their university experience. And it's really, really important you do that, because you are not only trying to get into the school you want to, you're also trying to see if that's the right fit for you and if that's where you would belong. Like, I went to, so Berklee College of Music was my first choice from like grade 9 to 11. And then I went to a summer program there and I realized that I hated it. And I realized that it was an amazing school. It's like one of the best music schools in the country, in the world. But it just wasn't a good environment for me to thrive in. And I realized that when I was there doing the summer program, and I was like, okay, so I guess it's time to look at other schools. And I was talking to a friend's parent, and it was just like a really casual like dinner setting. And then she told me about the Clive Davis Institute. And then so I looked into it, and I realized that this was like the perfect program. It was like everything I was looking for. So I made that my goal to apply for NYU, and that became my dream school. And that was grade 11, so junior year. And then at the end of junior year, I had my list of schools. I had all the application like materials that I needed. So I made a like a spreadsheet of like what each school needed and like where when the application deadlines were, and I basically started my Common App in the summer of my junior year, which is pretty early, but I do recommend people start doing it earlier than later because procrastinating is never good. I know some people who wait until like the last second to submit their application, and that's just a lot of stress that you don't need, you know? Like, that extra hour or whatever is not gonna make your essay better, probably. So I try to hand in all of my admission stuff like a day or two before. And that also helps because like then you won't run into any tech issues. And if you do, you still have time to like fix it. So yeah, I worked on my Common App essay during the summer of my junior year. So by the start of senior year, I was done my Common App and I could really focus on my creative portfolio. And there's a lot of stuff, especially if you're applying for the arts. There is a lot of stuff that you need to do. So like extra essays, videos, like your music or your art or whatever you want to showcase. And that's a lot of work. So start on that early as well. And so I applied early decision 1, and the deadline for that was November 1st, because for Tisch, you have to hand in your Common App a month before the actual application is due. And so the Common App was due on October 1st, and then the creative portfolio was due on November 1st, which is really, really early if you think about it. Like, school has just started. And so I was working on that in September, and then I handed it in. And then I heard back from NYU in December. So that was super exciting. And I ended up only applying for NYU, and I withdrew my other applications after that because I knew like that was the school that I was going to. So yeah, that's kind of my high school journey.
Super, super awesome. That's is I think I've never talked to a art student, and this is the first time I'm learning about the creative portfolio. Can you share a little bit more about that? Of like, what types of things are they asking for, and is it like specific to like, if you're in music, you have to submit X, Y, Z, and is it the same at every school as well too?
It is. So the hardest part is that it is not the same at every school. And for music specifically, every school has a different type of portfolio. So for example, the ones I remember, like the NYU one, you have to submit a statement of intent. You have to do one video, one 5-minute video that is called the creative statement. And it's basically your story, your works, and like your influences, which is a lot to fit into 5 minutes. And that was probably the most difficult thing that I had to work on, was like that video. And I put so much effort into it. And then for like the USC application that I did for the music program there, it was you submit, I think 2 or 3 songs, and then you do like an essay. And then they also had a live audition, but I didn't end up going to the live audition because I had already gotten into NYU. And then for University of Michigan, they had a completely different music requirement. So they had you submit one song that you did, and then one like performance, like a cover of a song. And then you also had to like remix a song that they gave you. So it's like, it's different for every single school, which is why you really should try to organize yourself with like a spreadsheet or something to like write down all the stuff that you need to do, because it gets really, really confusing when you're applying to so many different schools.
Super awesome. Cool. I know that's all. So for those who are watching here, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. We'll go into Q&A in about 5 minutes, but a few quick follow-up questions as well too. So the first, I know you talked about like creating a spreadsheet. So it sounds like you're super, super organized. Is the big question a lot of students ask, like, how do you stay organized? So if you have any tips for high school students on staying organized in high school in terms of like getting their school stuff situated, extracurricular, especially now with online learning and everything, any tips from you on like organizing and organization and staying motivated for that?
Yeah, I actually made like a whole YouTube video on like how to stay organized. But basically, to sum it up, it's like I use a to-do list system. So I used Todoist, which is an app you can get on your phone or your computer. And I have like all these different categories of like things that I need to do. Excuse me. And then I'll write them down whenever I think about it, whenever it pops into my head. And then I'll also set like the deadline, so when it's due, and it'll remind me, and I can see like, this is what I need to do for today and tomorrow and the next day. And this is especially helpful, especially for like scholarships. I know like probably a lot of you are looking at applying for scholarships, and I've applied to like over maybe like 150 scholarships, I want to say. And that like whole process gets really overwhelming. So I write it all down in my to-do list. I have the links, I have the deadlines, and then whenever I find time, I'll do like 2 or 3 applications in a weekend or something. And then the other thing that I do is like your calendar app, obviously. So that's also really helpful. And these are just some like really quick and easy like strategies to get organized, and I think it like really works.
Awesome. And you mentioned scholarships, which is another fun topic to chat about a little bit about too. So scholarships is like, I tell students that's the one kind of factor you can control, because you can't really control how much grants you get or like loans and all that stuff, but scholarships you can. And you apply to 150, which is a lot. So can you share a little bit like from those 150, what was the results of that is one, and where could students go to kind of start looking for these?
Yeah. So what I did was I started in junior year, actually. So like the earlier you get started, the better. There are a lot of scholarships for high school students. And what I started doing was like when I was in high school, I would Google scholarships for high school students. And then I would just go down the Google list. And usually there's like a bunch of websites that like compile a bunch of scholarships for you. There's like niche scholarships.com or scholarships.ca, depending on where you are. So, because I'm from Canada. And then also there's one called scholarshipsonline.org, which is really, I actually really, really like this one, because you can subscribe to their like mailing list, and then they will send you, you like fill out a profile and they will send you personalized scholarships every week. So I still get them, and you basically just get a bunch of scholarships that they think that you'll be eligible for, and then you can like check if you're actually eligible, and then you apply. So I applied to over 150 scholarships, and so the main one that I got was the Horatio Alger Scholarship, which is a really, really good one. I highly recommend people to go check that out. It's run by the Horatio Alger Association. And so if you're in the States, I think they have like, every state has like state scholars, and then they also have national scholars. And then if you're in Canada, I don't know if there's any Canadians watching, but they do have the Canadian Scholar, and they pick 150 Canadian scholars every year. So that's a super awesome scholarship. It's I know the Canadian one is 5,000 Canadian dollars. I'm not sure what the national one is for the US, but you can definitely go check that out on their website. Another one I applied for was the National Society of High School Scholars, the NSHSS. So they have a bunch of academic and like arts scholarships. And the one I got was the Performing Arts Music Scholarship. They also have a bunch that are like for leadership, for community service, for all the different types of performing arts. That's a really good one to check out as well, especially if you're in high school. And then I did a lot of smaller scholarships that were local. So I think like every state has their own like smaller scholarships, and you can look at like a lot of organizations have their own scholarships. So just like do some digging around. And there's also ones that are like by major. So you could also Google like, let's say I was a music major, so I Googled like scholarships for music majors. And then there's also like a whole list that comes up. And then I also did the 1000 Dreams Fund. I actually just got that one recently, and it was the Paliwal Club of 100 Scholarship Fund. And so the 1000 Dreams Fund, I think, is only for female students, but that's also a really good one to check out. So yeah, just like apply to a bunch. I've applied to so many, and as you can see, like I've gotten like 15. It's still a lot of money, I will say, when it all adds up in the end. It is a lot of work, but just keep like writing those essays and applications. And like the more you do it, you find that it gets easier because they usually ask the same questions over and over again. And you can kind of like copy and paste your essays. So yeah.
No, I think that's a gold tip right there. I think I tell students just apply to a lot, and definitely I think especially with when you submit your college applications and they ask for essays, majority of scholarship essays ask for the exact same prompt, just worded differently. And once you they're asking for the same thing. Like just tweak, submit, and that's how you apply to scholarships there.
Exactly.
Super awesome. Last quick question for me, then we'll jump over to student questions. You mentioned you're from Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how is applying as a out of the country student, like international student technically, right, to US schools? Was that process any different, or were there other factors you needed to consider with that?
Yeah, so my main reason for going international actually was that there aren't that many music production programs in Canada. There aren't any good ones. And so I wanted to go somewhere where they had a good program. And also I just really wanted to go far away from home. But applying as an international student is a bit different. Mostly it's just the taking the SAT, because we like don't have like mandatory SAT testing, but you do have to study for it, and also like doing APs, because it's a lot harder to do APs if you're international, at least for like my school. There weren't that many AP courses that we could take. And then also just like applying for the CSS, which is for financial aid. That's the main difference. But yeah, I think mostly it's the same, especially if you're applying for like private schools like NYU. Yeah.
Super cool. Awesome. Cool. Let's go ahead and jump into student questions. So again, if you are here live, you have the opportunity to ask questions, your own questions live. So leave it in the comments. I'll start pulling them up. And I have a few that students who couldn't, this is still school time for them over here in the West Coast. So they sent in a few questions beforehand. So first question here, Paola asked, was starting your own club hard in college?
It was not that hard, actually. So there's so many resources at like whatever school you go to, especially like at NYU, they had so many different resources. I knew I wanted to start the club in the summer before I came here, and I'd already made a bunch of like connections with people through Instagram and like group chats and stuff. So I reached out to some of my friends and I was like, oh, I'm interested in starting this club. Like, do you want to do it with me? And so I had like 2 or 3 people on my team already. And then once I got to NYU, I started looking into the club process. And basically, you just have to fill out an application stating like what kind of club you want to start and like what your idea for it is, why it's different from any other club that's at your college. So for those of you who don't know, I started the Women in Music Club at NYU. And I was actually quite surprised they didn't already have a Women in Music Club, and which is why I knew that this was like a really, really needed space here. And yeah, we just got approved as a club, so we will be starting to run events this coming semester. Yeah, it honestly depends on what kind of club you want to start, because I know that the application process is really competitive. So it really depends on what, if the committee thinks that your club is like important and it's like needed in the space, and how well you can describe why it's needed within the university. Oh, I don't think I can hear you.
All right. All right. Perfect. I think with the online thing, it was always like, I think you're on mute. I think you're on mute. I'm back. So then another question, next question from offline, be sent beforehand is someone asked, how do you find your passion? How do you know, for example, for you, how do you know you love music?
Yeah, honestly, I wish I could be more helpful with this question, but I started playing piano at the age of 4, and I always knew I wanted to go into music. I was going to become a classical pianist, and that was my dream. And then I realized that you can't make money as a classical pianist anymore, unless you're like really, really, really good. And so I sort of switched gears, and I tried to find something else that was still in the music industry. And so I found production in high school, and I started exploring production. I taught myself how to produce through YouTube videos, and then I started writing my own songs. Oh, my light just went off. And yeah, so that, I think it's just like trying different things, especially if you don't know yet. Like just join a club, do some extracurricular activities, or like start your own like business or anything really. Yeah, and hopefully you will find your passion.
Super cool. Are you in your dorm right now?
I am.
Awesome. How's dorming life in general for students?
I won't lie, during COVID, it sucks. Because we're not allowed to have other people in our rooms, and it's just been really terrible and lonely. But the dorm life is pretty good. Actually, it's great for meeting people, especially during fall semester. It was really great for meeting people in the group chats and stuff. And also, there's like dining halls here, and New York rent is very expensive. So living in a dorm your first year, especially as an international student, or even someone like moving to New York who's like never been here before, the dorm is a super helpful resource. It's like some place you can actually call home, and you don't have to like do everything yourself. Because like when you move out, you really do become an adult, and you have to like know what you're doing. So yeah, dorm life, I think for your first semester, I would highly recommend, or even your first year. But I think I will be moving out after this year.
Awesome. I definitely, I always recommend all students. I used dorm the first year just to like make meeting friends, but that's a weird world now with anyways going on. Is it single rooms now, or is it always single rooms, or is it just because I'm now that single rooms, or are you in a single room?
I'm in a double, so I have a roommate, but she's not here right now. But yeah, mostly we have doubles and triples. If you're lucky, you can request a single, but mostly for NYU, it is doubles and triples.
Awesome. Cool. Another offline question for you. So seniors, from the senior, college apps are over. What else to do now the rest of senior year, from now until June for them?
Yeah, this is hard because I also, during the end of my senior year, after basically a bit after my, I knew I was going to NYU, everything shut down, and I was like, oh, we thought we would go back to school in like 2 weeks because it was just spring break, and they were like, oh, we're extending spring break for 2 weeks, and we're like, okay, well, we'll be back soon. And then we never went back to school. And I'm sure you all know how that feels now. But try to take advantage of every opportunity. Like, just enjoy your last few months, because really, like, you will never get to go back to that. And high school is like such a great, like, fun, easy going place. When you get to college, everything's so stressful. Like, so I'd say, like, just enjoy your time and spend it with your friends, especially if you're going somewhere far away for college. You might not see your friends again for like a few months. So yeah, like, honestly, you have graduation to look forward to, and like try to hang out with people COVID safely. So yeah.
Super awesome. Is NYU making any changes from this year to next year, or is it kind of the same kind of lifestyle going to the next school year? Do you know?
I'm not sure, actually. I hope COVID is getting a bit better. I know there's been like a drop. So yeah, like right now we still have like hybrid courses. So I do take a bunch of in-person classes, and like I can still meet people outside. And the facilities, like especially NYU has been doing a really, really good job with COVID. We get tested every week. And there's like a bunch of safety measures when you enter buildings, and like in the classroom and everything. So they've been working really hard to get us back in the classroom, and I really like that.
Awesome. I didn't have enough time to type in the next question, but another question that student asked was how important, not important, but I think, okay, I'm going to rephrase that question for them. What impact did the city itself have on you as well too? Like NYU, I know especially NYU is like, you're basically embedded into the city. How much did like that factor play into your decision to choose NYU?
Yeah, so at first I didn't think it was that big of a deal because obviously I applied for like USC and like Michigan, Ann Arbor, and those are like really, really small, like there's schools within like college towns. So I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but now that I'm in the city, I'm like, wow, I love being in the city. Like I grew up in Toronto and that was a big city. And then coming here, it's a lot like Toronto. But like the city is just an amazing lifestyle. You get to like be a part of the culture and the arts, and like especially New York City, there's so much to see, there's so much to explore, and there's so much to do that it's just an absolutely incredible experience. And I think if I were to choose any other university, I would still come to New York City. So yeah.
Super awesome. Yeah. Off the record though, that's the one city I like. I probably won't. That's why I grew up West Coast. I love the West Coast, and I visited New York a few times. Man, I love the schools though. NYU and Columbia, really, really pretty schools. City itself though, for me is a big factor. I sneak in two last quick questions for you. Sanya asked, what do you think was the strongest part of your application?
Yeah, for me, definitely it was my creative portfolio, which is also on my YouTube channel. I know I keep plugging my YouTube channel, but yeah, like the creative portfolio, the 5-minute video that I had to showcase. Also my Common App, I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to write for my Common App, and like little tip, basically pick like a prompt that not a lot of people do. I know a lot of people like to write about like their like interests. There's like the one question that's like, oh, what is like one thing that your application would be missing? And if you have a really strong answer, then like go for it. But I picked the one that was like, what makes you lose track of time? And I talked about, because I'm a philosophy minor, so I talked about like aesthetics and contemporary art and how I really like abstract art, and then sort of how that influences my music. But I didn't really tie my music into it because there are other parts of my application that already show my music. So I wanted to like bring my personality out into that section.
Super cool. And final question for you. That's from me. Thank you so much again for your time here. Last quick thing. I created a community called the Unfair Advantage to help high school students get the little extra leverage in their college admissions, career aspirations like financial success. What is one tip you want to give to high school students that you feel like the unfair advantage for them to know at this time?
Oh my God, there's so many. I gave a lot in this video. I think just being yourself. I know everybody says that and it's so cheesy, but like actually don't try to be what the college want. Like don't try to guess what they want out of you. Like really just be yourself, and then the admissions officers will see that and they will think if you're like, they will know if you're a right fit for the college or not, like because they do this all day. So definitely like being yourself, and also like when they ask you what why you want to apply for this college, which is a very, very common question on all of the applications, like do your research. And a lot of the times I help read other people's essays, and a lot of people don't really do their research enough, and they're not specific enough. So like if they're asking you like why you want to go to this school, research like classes and professors and like extracurricular activities, or like even the city, like things that you really would enjoy at the school, and like be genuine and like show them that you actually are interested in coming to this school.
Perfect. That's a great conclusion. And with that, you have 30 seconds to kind of close out this video. Anything you want to share, add, plug at all?
Yeah, so my Instagram, as you can see, is Senaida XOXO, and you can also go to my YouTube channel. I do a lot of videos talking about NYU. I just posted one today about the best spots to eat around campus. So go check out my YouTube channel and hit me up on Instagram if you want to ask me any more questions. My DMs are always open, and I would love to help you guys. And I also, yeah, I just read people's essays for fun. So if you want to send me your essay, you can also do that.
Super cool. And with that, thank you so much. And thank you all the students who joined us live. I'll see you in the next video.